distinguished delegate, eminent speaker, ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to all of you. On behalf of ePortal Aspire by International Center for Automotive Technology, I, Amritansh Tiwari, extend a very warm welcome to all of you for joining us today for the webinar on Awareness on Railway Component Fatigue Testing, being organized by ICAT under Automotive Solution Portal for Industry, Research and Education, Aspire. This webinar is an initiative by ICAT and Spire for the benefit of industry, startup, and academia. This is a part of celebration of Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, which marks the 75th anniversary of our independence. It further reinforces our commitment toward Atmanirbhar Bharat mission in the technology area. It aims to provide awareness to the railway component manufacturer on the vibration and mechanical shock testing as per IEC 61373 standard and other fatigue testing of railway applications rolling stock equipments. This webinar would also showcase ICAT capability to execute these testing along with the case studies. Now, I would like to request Srimati Pamela Tikku, Senior GM and Chief Business Officer of ICAT for the welcome address. Ma'am.
Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, you are audible.
Okay. Thank you, Amritansh. Thank you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, colleagues, friends from railway, automotive industry. It gives me immense pleasure to welcome you all on this webinar being organized for awareness on fatigue testing of railway components, being organized by ICAT under Aspire. ICAT has taken the initiative to organize webinars for various sectors, and today is the focused webinar on fatigue testing for railway and metro components. The objective is to bring the stakeholders involved in this industry at one platform and discuss how ICAT can support their requirement for development or product validation. We used to organize webinars in person during pre-COVID times, but since COVID has struck globally, it is becoming difficult to have a physical presence and participation in seminars, and hence we miss the physical interaction with all our guests. But nevertheless, through these webinars, we try to connect with our people, connect with our stakeholders, and exchange how ICAT is progressing and what kind of requirements do our customers have. You are aware that COVID has also thrown a lot of challenges for the economy globally. So everybody now is talking about how to be self-reliant, be self-sufficient for all requirements, whether it is for automotive, railway, defense, any sector. And hence there is a lot of focus being provided on developing local capabilities, developing local capacities to be self-sufficient and not be impacted by such threats which have actually shattered many global economies and has also, put brakes on the development and economic growth of the country. As we are aware, Indian Railways contributes to 1.5% share of India's GDP and provides 1.25 million employments directly and indirectly. And it's a very important sector and a lifeline for the Indian economy, through which both goods and people transportation happens in a large way, and hence enabling the efficiency of delivery of people and delivery of goods. So we are also currently seeing that a lot of impetus is being put by Government of India in enhancing the efficiency of this particular transportation mode. So new railway technologies are being implemented, faster railway technologies are implemented, and we are seeing that the average speeds of vehicles of these trains, which used to be around 50 kilometers per hour is now we are talking about, we are seeing that there are going to be high speed rail connectivity also from city to city, and it is going to enhance the requirement of infrastructure. It is also going to put pressure on the kind of components and the support supply chain for such new technology trains in India. So under the Atmanirbhar Bharat mission of Government of India, wherein the self-reliance and self-sufficient nation is the mantra being talked about. So we are supporting this vision through creating, infrastructure capabilities and facilities for hand-holding people to develop products locally in India, so that their dependence on outside India is minimized. So we are offering currently services to various rolling stock manufacturers as per different standards, which is being supported through RDSO, DLW, CLW, and many OEMs in the railway sector. I would like to mention that ICAT is also NABL accredited as per ISO 17025 regulation standard, and also for IEC 61373 and EN 50155 standard. So with this facilities and the kind of capabilities we have, we are currently undertaking projects for various components under various labs, be it electronics, be it air conditioning units, be it components which are being used by various railway manufacturing products. And we are also trying to see how we can enable localization of certain products where the dependence on import is there in the sector. So under Aspire portal, we have created an infrastructure. It's basically an electronic infrastructure wherein we want to bring stakeholders, solution seekers and solution providers on one platform. So we are currently focusing on automotive sector, but nevertheless there is also a spillover to the other sectors, for example, railways and other sectors which can be benefited from the technology development. So we want to bring industry, academia, research institute at common platform and develop processes, enable development of innovation so that we can develop products locally. We can have innovation culture in the country, which is currently deficient. And we are treading slowly towards it. India had been a manufacturing and a supply chain economy, based economy. But now there is a transition, which is we are all seeing, that we want to move from pure supply chain and manufacturing economy to a value-added economy, which will happen through innovation only. So I am sure that under Aspire, we aspire to bring certain technological developments, not only for automotive sector, but also for railway sector. And I hope that railway and metro industry will also make use of these opportunities to develop these components in India. Under Aspire, we have many subboards, and one of the subboards is focusing on the component development. So which focuses on reducing of import content of components in automobiles and other sectors. I'm sure today the line of speakers that team from Prateek Lab of ICAT under Samir Shikalkar has put in will bring in speakers who will be exchanging their knowledge and information to the participants today, and see how we can support their requirement and have a good exchange of views and understand what is your requirement now and future, so that we also gear up for that requirement. I would like to wish this webinar a grand success. I want to thank Samir and his team along with the team of ICC for putting up this webinar together, and all the participants for attending this webinar, even though virtually. And I'm hopeful that this will bring value to each one of you and make it interactive so that we understand what your requirements are and how we can support you. I once again would like to thank all of you for your participation and being with us today. Thank you so much, and Jai Hind.
Thank you, ma'am, for setting wheels of the webinar in motion. with an enlightening inaugural address. We also thank you for your support and guidance in organizing this webinar. Thank you again, once again, ma'am. Now, we shall move to the technical lectures. We will start with the main presentations. We have 3 presentations of 30 minutes each, followed by the question and answer session of 15 minutes. If you have any question during the presentation, I would request you to kindly write them in our question section along with the name of the speaker they are addressed to. We will take that questions on your behalf for all the presentations. I would now request all the speakers of the session to kindly keep their presentation ready. I'm sure that the immense knowledge in this presentation will give us all a better understanding on awareness of railways component fatigue testing. Now for the first presentation of the webinar, I would like to welcome Mr. Rohit Shah. Mr. Shah has completed BTech in Mechanical and Automation Engineering from GGSIP University, New Delhi in 2015. He has 6 years of experience in vibration, environmental and DVP testing of various components of railway, metro, defense and automotive. He had conducted more than 100 tests for railways, metro component as per IEC 61373 standard, RDSO specifications, DLW specifications and CLW specification. At present, Mr. Shah is working as an assistant manager in Fatigue Lab. He is responsible for conducting indoor vibration, environmental and DVP testing in Fatigue Lab with a team of 7 people. He is also an NABL co-coordinator of Fatigue Lab test facility. Mr. Shah will be presenting on awareness on railway application rolling stack equipment testing as per IEC 61373. We welcome you, sir. We are privileged to have you as our first speaker today. I now request Mr. Shah to proceed with his presentation.
Yeah. Hello. Good morning, everyone. I am Rohit Kumar Shah. Today I am Assistant Manager, Fatigue Lab, ICAT. Today I am here to present topic awareness on railway applications, rolling stock equipment testing as per the IC 61373. Okay. Before moving to the main contents of standard, let me to show you the components which we have tested as per the IC 61373 under the different category. So this is the cab AC2 TR wall mounted, which was tested as per the IC 61373 under the category 1 pantograph, RMPO. So these are the components which we have tested as per the means category 1 class A as per the standard IC 613732010. LED based dynamic route map, oil cooler radiator. Now the means images of some components which we have tested as per the category 1 class B: capacitor with bus bar, transformer, microcontroller, panels, SBC underslung panels, line chalk, and a spring loaded switch. So these are the various components which we have tested as per the category 1 class B of standard IC 61373. Now there are the few components which we have tested as per the category 2 and category 3 of this standard: disc brake unit, axle damper, which we have tested as per the category 3 of this standard, primary vertical damper, secondary vertical damper. So these are the various components which we have tested as per the category 2 and category 3 of IC 61373. So let's move on the main contents of the presentation. So these are the contents. First of all, introduction, scope of the standard, standard measuring positions used for the axle, bogie and body mounted for the different categories, general location of the equipments on railway vehicles and their resulting test category, testing as per the IC 61373 2010 version, order of testing, method of mounting and orientation of equipment under the test, functional random vibration test conditions, simulated long life testing at increased random vibration levels, shock testing conditions, acceptance criteria, and last we'll show you some photos and videos of testing for the different category. For example, category 1 class A on HF mast and vibration shaker, test setup and videos of category 1 class B, test sample on the vibration shaker, test setup of category 2 bogie mounted test sample on the vibration shakers. So introduction. Okay, so introduction. This standard covers the requirements for random vibration and shock testing items of pneumatic, electrical and electronic equipment / components to be fitted on the railway vehicles. This the test content within this standard are specifically aimed at demonstrating the ability of the equipment under test to withstand the type of environment vibration conditions normally expected for railway vehicles. In order to achieve the best representations possible, the values quoted in the standard have been derived from actual service measurements submitted by various bodies from around the world. This standard is suitable for design and validation purposes. These tests may be performed on prototype in order to gain design information about the product performance under random vibration. However, for test certification purposes, the tests have to be carried out on equipment taken from normal productions. Now, scope. This standard applies to single axis testing, and the test values quoted in this standard have been divided into 3 categories dependent only upon the equipment's location within the railway vehicle. So category 1, that is the body mounted. Category 1 further divided into the 2 classes, class A and class B. So class A for the cubicle, sub-assemblies, equipment and the components mounted directly on or under the car body, means railway vehicle car body. And class body, anything mounted inside an equipment case, which is in turn mounted directly on or under the car body. And there is a note point. Class B should be used when it is not clear where the equipment is located. In that case, testing can be carried as per the category 1 body mounted class B. Now the category 2, that is the bogie mounted. So the cubicle, sub-assemblies, equipment and the components which are to be mounted on the bogie of the railway vehicles, that will comes under the category 2 bogie mounted. Now the category 3, that is the axle mounted. So components or assemblies which are to be mounted on wheel set assembly of a railway vehicle, that will come under the category 3 axle mounted. Now the standard measuring positions used for axle body and body mounted. So this is basically the schematic of railway bogie. A is here for the axle measuring position for the vertical, transverse and the longitudinal axis. F for the frame or bogie measuring position for the vertical, transverse and the longitudinal axis. And next B for the body measuring position for the vertical, transverse and the longitudinal axis. Means if components are mounted at this location, means at the axle A location, then the components will be tested as per the category 3 axle mounted. If the components are mounted over the frame of the railway bogie, in that case testing will be carried as per the category 2 bogie mounted test condition. If the test components are mounted on the body of the railway bogie, then the testing will be carried as per the category 1, either class A or class B as per the requirement or the position. So further we'll discuss in the later slide. So in what condition we should consider the class A and in which case we should consider the class B. So now the general location of equipment on railway vehicles and their category. So this is again schematic of the railway bogie. So these are the major locations which are identified in the railway bogie where components are generally fitted. So first for the category 1 class A. So location M, location N, location O, location I and location J. If the components are mounted at these locations, then the testing will be carried as per the category 1 and the class A of standard IEC 61373. If the components are mounted at the location D on the frame of the coaches, in that case testing will be carried as per the category 1 class B of the standard. If the component are mounted at the location K and location E, that is means inside any large equipment, components mounted into a large internal cubicle which in turn fits to the car body, then again testing will be carried as per the category 1 and class B. If the component is mounted at the location F, means sub assembly, that is inside any large means components of the bogie, then again testing will be carried as per the category 1 and class B. If the components are mounted at the location G, that is frame of the coaches, in that case testing will be carried as per the category 2 and bogie mounted. If the components are mounted at the location H, means on the axle of the car body, in that case testing will be carried as per the requirement of category 3 axle mounting. So I'm just taking example of the different category. For example, for the category 1 class A and location M, so generally at the location M, hatchback types of components are mounted and panels. So these are the components are generally mounted at this location. So location D, again in this case there will be the various components which are mounted at this location. Location K and E, some components which are mounted inside the panels that are being tested as per the category 1 class. For example, microcontroller, spring loaded switch. So these are the components which are being tested as per the category 1 and class B. I'm talking about the category 2. For example, means secondary vertical damper, yaw damper, and horizontal damper. So positions of damper in the coaches at the means location G. So dampers are being tested as per the category 2 and category 2 and bogie mounted specification of this standard. Again, the axle damper that is mounted on the axle of the coaches. So that is testing of axle dampers are being carried as per the category 3 means axle mounted. Now, what are the tests means refers this standard? So the following tests which are mandatory as per this standard. First of all, the functional random vibration test. So the main objective of this test is to verify the functionality of the component during its service condition. The functional random vibration test levels are the minimum test levels to be applied in order to demonstrate that the equipment under test is capable of functioning when subjected to conditions which are likely to occur in service on the railway vehicles. So that is this is the main objective of only for the functional test. Now the simulated long life testing as the increased vibration level. So this is the main objective of this test is to simulate the means its life of any equipment. So this test is aimed to establishing the mechanical integrity of the equipment at the increased service levels. It is not necessary to demonstrate ability to function under the means during this testing equipment will be in the off condition. It is not a necessary condition to equipment function during this testing. Now the next test is the shock testing. The shock testing is aimed at simulating rare service events. It is not necessary to demonstrate functionality during this test. It will, however, be necessary to demonstrate that no change in operational state occurs, that there is no visual deformations, and that mechanical integrity has not changed. These points shall be clearly demonstrated in the final test report. So this is the rare, for example, when we connect the coaches of train with the engine, so we might observe some kinds of shocks. So basically to simulate those conditions, these tests are being carried. Now, so actually, as we discussed, so there are three number of tests. So functional random vibration test, simulated long life testing, and shock testing as per this standard. And all these testings will be carried along all the directions, means vertical, transverse, and longitudinals. So now question will come. So what will the order of testing? So which directions we should prefer first, then which direction to be carried, after that which direction to be carried. So this standard defines the possible order of testing. So vertical, transverse, and longitudinal simulated long life testing by increased random vibration, followed by vertical, transverse, and longitudinal shock testing, and finally by vertical, transverse, and longitudinal functional random vibration testing. Actually, this is the means possible order which defines the standard, but one line also in the standard it is there to the order of testing may be altered to minimize the rejigging, and the order of testing shall be recorded in the report. For example, if testing of railway components are being carried on the vibration seeker. So for example, if functional test if we carry as per this order, vertical, transverse, and longitudinal, in that case we have to do a multiple times of rejigging. So that's why to avoid the rejigging, so there is an option to we can means alter the means testing order to avoid the rejigging of the test setup. Now, what is the method of mounting and orientation of equipment under the test? So the equipment under the test shall be mechanically connected to the test machine by its normal devices of attachment, including any resilient mount, either directly or by utilizing a fixture. So unless otherwise agreed, it is preferred that the equipment shall be tested in its normal working orientation with no special precautions taken against the effects of magnetic interference, heat, or any other factors upon the operation and performance of the equipment under test. Wherever possible, the fixture shall not have a resonance within the test frequency range. When resonances are unavoidable, the influence of the resonance on the performance of equipment under the test shall be studied and identified in the report. So this is the important point. So whenever if you use the fixture to mount the components with the test bed, in that case it must be taken care fixture should be resonance free in the test frequency band. If there will be a resonance in the test frequency band, then it can impact to the overall test result of the equipment, and it can hamper to its mechanical integrity, or sample may fail if there will be a huge resonance in the fixture in the test frequency band. Now let's move on the testing. So first test is functional random vibration test. So this testing is of minimum 10 minutes, and as we already covered, so this is a test condition to simulate the service condition of the railway. So these are the various means vibration level, means RMS GRMS levels, which are given for the different category and different class. So there is a very less GRMS for the category 1 and class A components that is mounted on the body, because that part of the that part in the railway coaches observe very less vibration. So that's why RMS value is also, RMS acceleration is also very less. So after that, the uh, second highest is in category 1 class B body mounted, because that part of the components in the railway coaches uh, observe or receive comparatively higher vibration level compared to the category 1 and class B. So in this case, there is a comparatively RMS acceleration is on higher side. So next is the bogie mounted. So bogie mounted, that is those components mounted on the frame of the coaches. So in that condition, so frame of the railway coaches observe comparatively higher vibration level. So that's why in that case RMS acceleration is comparatively high. Similarly, next category 3, that is the axle mounted. So in that case also RMS acceleration is very high. In category 3 axle mounted, RMS acceleration is very high, because components which comes under this category are directly mounted on the axle of the coaches. So that's why RMS acceleration is very high in this category. So now for the frequency range, there are the different figure which we'll discuss later in this slide. So these are the basically the RMS levels which defines in this standard to check the service condition of the equipment. And during this testing, so equipment will be in the operating condition, means functional test will be carried during this testing. Now the next test is simulated long life testing at the increased random vibration level. The objective of this test, as we discussed, so to verify the mechanical integrity of the test component, and this is of total 15 hours testing, 5 hours along each direction, 5 hours along vertical direction, 5 hours along transverse direction, 5 hours along longitudinal directions. Again, RMS acceleration in this case also in the same order. So very less in the category 1 class A body mounted category, because there is a very less vibration level is exposed. So this is the RMS level for the RMS acceleration level for the category 1 class A body. Next, second highest is in category 1 class B body mounted, vertical, transverse, longitudinal, second highest. Third, category 2 bogie mounted, the components which are directly mounted on the frame, third highest. And the maximum RMS acceleration is on axle mounted component, that is category 3. So if you will see the pattern of RMS acceleration, so there is a, in each category, highest acceleration level is mentioned in the vertical direction, because when train runs, then the maximum vibrations we feel along the vertical direction only. That's why highest vibration level is mentioned along the vertical direction. For the category 2 and category 3, category 2 and category 3, this order is different for the transverse and longitudinal direction. For the category 2, you will find so comparatively higher acceleration level along the transverse direction compared to the longitudinal direction. Similarly, in the category 3, higher RMS acceleration level in the transverse direction compared to the longitudinal direction, because of the orientation of test samples mounted at this position. Now the figure 2 and figure 3 for the category 1 class A and class B body mounted. So this figure depicts, so how can we select the frequency band for a particular test component. So I'm just taking first example. Actually in figure 2 and figure 3, figure 2 is for the category 1 class A and figure 3 is for the category 1 class B. The difference between these two figures are only in the difference of ASD level, that is the acceleration spectral density, and GRMS level. Rest frequency band is same in both the cases. Weight criteria is same in both the class. So how will select the test frequency band for a different weight of the test component? For this standard frequency band is totally depend on the weight of the test component. For the class A and class B, category 1 class A and class B, if the weight of test sample is less than equal to 500 kg, then the frequency band will be 5 to 150 Hz. If the weight of the test sample falls between the 500 kg to 1250 kg, in that case there is a formula to calculate the lower frequency and higher frequency. To calculate the lower frequency, so we can use this formula 1250 divided by mass of the test sample. One important point that needs to be taken care while calculating the lower frequency and higher frequency, mass of only test sample will be taken here, not mass of the test fixture. So only mass of test sample will be taken care for this for the calculating of lower frequency and higher frequency. So with the help of this formula, we can find the lower frequency and higher frequency if the weight of test sample lies between the 500 to 1250 kg. Similarly, if the weight of test sample is more than 1250 kg, in that case test frequency band is fixed, means lower frequency is 2 Hz and higher frequency is 60 Hz. So the frequency in this standard is depends on the weight of test component. So frequency criteria, selection of frequency criteria for the category 1 class A and class B is same, just there is a difference in the class A and class B is in vibration level and acceleration spectral density level. Rather than test duration, everything is same. Now so figure 4 and figure 5, that is for the that defines for the frequency band for the category 2 and category 3 body mounted and axle mounted of the components. So first let's discuss for the category 2 bogie mounted equipment. So for the if the mass of the test component is less than 100 kg, in that case frequency is fixed, that is 5 to 250 Hz. And again, if mass of the test sample is between the 100 kg to 250 kg. In that case, the test frequency, again, we have to calculate the lower frequency and higher frequency. So in this case, formula is different compared to the previous case. So in this case, for the lower frequency, we have to calculate 250 divided by mass of the test component into 2. It will give us the lower frequency, and for the higher frequency, 250 divided by mass of the component into 100. It will give the higher frequency. And if the weight of test sample or test component is more than 250 kg, in that case, again, frequency is fixed, that is 2 hertz to 100 hertz. Again, this is the table for the ASD level for the vibration test, for along vertical direction, along transverse direction, along longitudinal direction. Again, for the different ASD level for the simulated long life testing for the vertical, transverse, and the longitudinal direction. So category 2, and this is basically the means figure from we can calculate the test frequency band for the category 2 test component. Now let's move on the category 3, that is the axle mounted components. So in this case, test frequency band is on higher side. If the mass of the test component is less than 50 kg, in that case, the test frequency will be up to the 500 hertz. Means lower frequency will be the 10 hertz and higher frequency will be 500 hertz. If the mass of the test component is more than 50 kg and less than equal to 125 kg, in that case, the lower frequency will be the 10 hertz and higher frequency, again, we have to calculate 125 divided by the mass of the component into 200. So it will give us the higher frequency. If the mass of the test component is more than 125 kg, in that case, there is a fixed frequency, that is fixed higher frequency, that is the 200 hertz. Means lower frequency is fixed in this case, and higher frequency we have to calculate from this formula. And the important point, again, in this case, we have to take care to calculate the lower and higher frequency, that is the only mass of the test sample will be taken care to calculate the test frequency band, not mass of the tester. So this is the table, again, defines the ASD level for the functional test as well as ASD level for the long life testing at the increased vibration level. So this is all about the calculation of the frequency band for the different category. Now let's move on the shock testing condition. This is the last test of this standard. So the equipment under test shall be subjected to a sequence of single half sine pulses, each within a nominal duration of D and a nominal peak amplitude A. So if we refer the category 1 class A and class B body mounted, then you will find, so there is a same acceleration level and the nominal duration for the category 1 class A and class B. Means along the vertical direction 30, transverse 30, and longitudinal, that is the 50 meter per second square. This is the acceleration level. And pulse duration, this is the pulse duration, and wave shape will be the half sine. And total number of the pulses that to be generated along the each direction will be the 16 shocks. Means 3 positive shocks and 3 negative shocks along the each direction. Means 6 pulses will be along the vertical, 6 along the transverse, and 6 along longitudinal axis. Now the bogie mounted, for the bogie mounted for the all direction, the acceleration level is same, that is the 300 meter per second square, that means 30 g acceleration, and the nominal pulse duration is comparatively less, that is the 18 millisecond. Okay, and next is the axle mounted. For the axle mounted, again, acceleration level is same, that is 1000 meter per second square, means that is 100 g, and the nominal duration is 6 millisecond. Means for the category 1, category 2, and category 3, For all the category, acceleration level and the nominal duration of pulses are different, but number of pulses for the all category will be same. That is 18 pulses for category 1 and category 2 and category 3. Okay, and important point, it is not necessary for the equipment to operate during this shock testing. Means basically the main objective of this test also is to check the mechanical integrity of the test component. This test is the objective of this test is not is to check the functional parameter of the equipment. So equipment will be in off condition during this testing. Now the acceptance criteria. So what are the acceptance criteria as per the this standard for all the components? So on successful completion of all of the following means all the tests, the equipment shall be considered suitable for the test certification. Means all the tests means functional random vibration testing, simulated long live testing at the increased vibration level, soft testing. So if all the tests completed successfully, then the these are the means criteria which must fulfill the equipment to issue the test report. So first of all, performance according to the 6.3.3. This clause is mentioned in the standard which defines the performance test shall be carried out prior to the commencement and upon the completion of all the tests specified. So before starting the test, we must check the equipment is proper working, and whatever performance criteria is means mentioned in the QTP or in the standard for that particular component, that should be checked before commencing the test or after completion of test. Next is the function according to the 6.3.2 remains within the defined limit. Functional test of the duty means functional test, as we have already discussed. So during the functional random vibration test, so functional test must be carried along all the direction for the equipment if it is specified for that for the particular DUT or particular test component. And next is a no visual deformation and mechanical integrity has not changed. As we have already discussed, the simulated long life testing and soft testing means refers to the mechanical integrity checking of the equipment. So mechanical integrity should not means change after completion of the testing. Then we can issue the means test report against this standard. Now there are some photos and videos of testing which we have carried on our test facility at the ICAT. So let me to show you the setup, test setup of the means RMP unit which we have done on our high frequency multi-axis simulation table. So this is the setup which we have done, and this is the video which I'm going to show you. So this is the video which we have shown to you, the vibration which we have simulated over the RMP unit along the transverse direction. So we have some more videos which let me to show you. Okay, so this is the setup which we have done on our high frequency multi-axis simulation table and video, which I have shown you. Vibration is being simulated along the transverse direction. So now next is the test setup and the videos of category 1 class A test sample on the multi-axis simulation table. So this is the setup which we have done on ICAT test facility. This is again RMP unit which we have tested, and this is the video which I'm going to show you. So this is the video of vibration along vertical directions, so which are being simulated as per the category 1 class A of this standard on RMPU. Okay, so let me to show you some more test setup photo and videos on vibration shaker. So this is the setup of pantograph. So testing which we have done on vibration shaker as per the category 1 class A of this standard, and let me to show you the video. So how vibration means are simulated over the pantograph. So this was the video of pantograph. Actually, this is the video of entire pantograph. You won't be able to see what vibration is being generated. Let me to show you the some close video of same. So 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 we have shown you the test video of pantograph which we have done along the vertical direction and how vibration is simulating over the pantograph. So you'll see the motion of you might have seen in the motion of the means spring and the various components of the pantograph means how vibration is means are being transferred on the different parts of the pantograph. Now this is the setup for the simulating of vibration level along the longitudinal direction, and again I'll show you the video. Okay, so this was the video in which vibration is being simulated along the longitudinal axis. So you might have observed, so in the different directions, so what are the components majorly being exposed to the vibration along the vertical direction? So major part which was exposed to the springs and their cantilever, and along the longitudinal direction you have seen, so this part of the pantograph are exposed to the more and more vibration. So there, this part is observing the high degree of vibration. So during the design of the components, so uh, we can manufacturer can take care of these parts to avoid the failure during the testing. Next, we have some setup photos and videos for the category 1 class B. So this is the setup of panel along the vertical direction, and let me to show you the video for the same. Okay, so so this is the setup for the vertical direction, and this is the video which we have shown you. So how vibration is simulating along the vertical direction for the category 1 and class B. Next, the same category 1 and class B, but the direction is longitudinal. So the main purpose to show this showing the video was so you can analyze so which direction for means what direction for the different component will be the more severe. For the pantograph, you might have seen, so longitudinal direction was the more severe compared to the vertical direction. Similarly, for the this panel, again vertical direction is okay, but the longitudinal and transverse direction is the more severe for the testing of panels. So these things manufacturer can take care while designing of the test component. So for the different component, it might be different. I mean, in the vertical, transverse, and longitudinal, any direction can be the more severe. So next, there is a means. Let me to show you the some setup for the category 2. So this is the category 2 sample. This is the disc brake unit, which is mounted on the frame of the railway coaches. So this is the disc brake unit which are being tested as per the category 2 of this standard. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shah, for the excellent presentation consisting of videos and information related to testing at ICAT. It was really wonderful. Now, for the second presentation of the webinar, I would like to welcome Mr. Gopal Singh Rathod. Mr. Rathod had completed BTech in Mechanical Engineering from VIT University, Bangalore in 2013. He had also completed MTech in Design Engineering from BITS Pilani in 2019. He has 8 years of experience in CAE structural, implicit and explicit CFD and multi-body dynamics. He had presented 2 research papers in the field of engine flow dynamics in SAE international conferences. He had also presented technical paper in Alter Technology Conference in 2016 and 2018. At present, Mr. Rathod is working as a Deputy Manager in CAE Lab at ICAT. He is responsible for execution of CAD CAE projects and new CAE methodology development, physical test correlation. We welcome you, sir. Mr. Rathod will be presenting on topic applications of CAE in railway component development and testing. I now request Mr. Rathod to please proceed with his presentation, sir.
A very good morning to everyone. Here I am today for the presentation on railway components, CAE simulation and design activities. So initially we will start with a very brief introduction about our lab, that is CAD CAE lab. At ICAT, under the CAD CAE lab domain, we work for the various activities in the product development, which relates to CAD development, electric vehicles, strength durability, fluids and thermal, NVH, crash, and multi-body dynamics. So if you see, all these aspects basically cover a complete product cycle, where we try to understand the product in a virtual environment first, and then release the data for the prototype, wherein we further go for the testing activities. This comes the lab infrastructure. So as you can see on the screen, we have a high performance computing cluster, wherein we can go for very high intensive, memory intensive or core intensive jobs in the domain of CAE. And these are the various simulation tools which we use. These are all the commercially available industry accepted tools. Like in CAD, we use Siemens and CATIA. And for the simulation domain, we use ANSYS, HyperWorks, MSc, and Simulia. These are the various simulation domains wherein we work for the various industries, which includes automotive, railways, aerospace, structures, medical devices, etc. These are some of the very basic case studies. I just want to have a glimpse of it. So we work upon strength and durability simulations, which includes component structural, low cycle fatigue, high cycle fatigue. And these are all some of the images which you can see on the screen that we have worked upon for some of our customers to develop the product in the virtual environment. Now coming to thermal simulations, we have worked upon battery thermal management, thermal stress fatigue, exhaust system development, etc. Similarly to in CFD domain, this links to an CFD simulation for an engine inflow cylinder and also for exhaust manifolds. And we have also worked upon some simulations related to port flow, battery cooling, and other conjugate heat transfer simulations. Now coming to the crash and impact analysis, this includes various types of simulations in the real-time domain. If you see any crash activity, or you want to test your product in a virtual environment with respect to any impact or very high-speed type of force activity, then therein we can use this type of simulations. Some of the images on the screen you can see as a bus rollover, then secondary products crash, truck cabin impact, etc. This links to the multi-body dynamics, wherein we try to study the mechanisms of any component. For example, on the screen you can see a rack and pinion motion, and this relates to a passenger car vehicle steering system, trailer dynamics, and wall train mechanism of an engine. This is another facility which we have, which we use for the prototyping. It has both the facilities of plastic as well as metal. Now coming to the agenda of the session, basically the webinar, we work upon various components also for the railways suppliers, wherein we work upon fixture design and also for some simulation case studies which I will be presenting today. So we'll be starting with the fixture design which we do for the fatigue testing lab, and it basically to mount the component over the vibration shaker and proceed for the further testing as per the relevant standard. What about the fixture design? A very basic, what is a fixture means? It provides a mounting surface and holds for holding the device under test, that is a DUT, and it has provision to get itself mounted on the shaker table. There are some basic design considerations we take upon, that what is the purpose of the fixture? Are we going to stimulate the vibration into DUT, or we are going to simulate the style, or basically we want to replicate the mounting conditions? So purpose should be very much clear at the initial stage of the testing. Then we understand whether there are single sample or multiple samples, how will the DUT will be oriented, what are the table dimensions on which the testing has to be done, what about the weight, length, width and height considerations of the component, and whether we are going to use the fixture for the single purpose or it is going to go for another testing or for the future adaptations. After the initial design stage, we try to understand the simulation environment activity of the fixture, wherein we try to identify the natural frequencies, the mode shapes. Then we consider whether there is an option of reducing any weight, or we can add any stiffness to the component, or basically to the fixture. And then we repeat our simulations and optimize the results for the performance or machinability, and try to make it as light and high as possible. This is one of the case. I just want to have a presentation on this also. So this is example. You can see a AC RMPU. So this is a reference image. You can see an AC RMPU mounted on the top of the bogie, or the passenger bogie, you can say, wagon. And the fixture on the left hand side, you can see how it is used for the mounting of the component. For example, this is a fixture, and you can see the bed plate also. So this bed plate is basically getting the fixture mounted itself. Now we go for that was the design part, and now we go for the understanding its activity in the simulation environment. So we try to model it as an FE model with a material as steel. We gave it as a mid-surface extraction geometry, then try to model it as a 2D mesh, because we have used tubular structures of thickness ranging from 4 mm, 5 mm, 6 mm. And then we go for the basic simulation, that is a model simulation, where we try to understand what is the frequency of the fixture, like how it will behave if it is getting vibrated under certain conditions. So you can see that we can test the fixture at two types of simulation we can do in the model. Like initially we can do a basic run of the model check, and then we can go for mounting the component mass. So you can see there is a mass of 900 kilo, which is a RMPU mass, that is roof mounted package unit. And then we try to simulate like how the fixture will behave when the component is loaded on the fixture. Both the frequencies will be different if you test the fixture independently, and also if you test the fixture with the component. Basically, when you have added the mass, and we are not considering any stiffness of the component here, because that requires a lot of modeling. And this is also a conservative approach, where we take only the mass and we have not taken any component stiffness. So in this case, the frequency which you get will be on a worst side. So this will be the, like we can say, a minimal frequency which you're getting, and actually it will be at a higher level. Second thing is for a capacitor unit. You can see a reference image in the capacitor unit gets mounted on the locomotives. In the fixture image, you can see over the left hand side top. So capacitor has a mass of 82 kilos, and the similar approach is followed for this activity also. You can see this is a model simulation with a rigid connection and deformable. So what does this rigid means is like we are mounting this component, that the capacitor component is mounted on the fixture through a rigid connection. So there is no other stiffness is infinite, you can say, with the component. But with the deformable shape, the stiffness will not be there, and only mass will be playing a role. So you can see the difference also, that we get a higher frequency with the rigid connection, and with a deformable connection we get a lower frequency. So we follow the approach of a deformable connection in the fixture design. These are some of the animations you can see over the screen, like how the component will actually try to behave during the model simulation. So this is like a natural behavior a component might exhibit during the vibration shaking activity. So we try to avoid these shapes and we try to avoid these frequencies so that the fixture do not amplify the loads which are coming from the shaker onto the component. As we know that every component has to go various amounts of test. It can be a shock analysis or it can be a random response. It can be a random response fatigue type of testing. So this is an example of showing how the shock also can be done on a fixture. So we try to model the shock as per the specification. So suppose, for example, on the x-axis, you have a acceleration levels up to 50 G has to be achieved in a time span of say 30 milliseconds. And similarly in the y-axis and the z-axis. So because we need to check whether a structure is going to withstand that amount of force or not during the testing phase or not. This is a snapshot for the deformation and the stress plots for the fixture design, which was just shown for the capacitor unit. So you can see we are trying to have the look at how the component will behave during the, or the fixture will behave during the shock testing. So we try to minimize this and try to keep our FOSA around 3 to 4 or 5 in order to be on the safer side during the testing. As objective is always to make a fixture as rigid as possible and as light as possible. This was about the fixture design. Now I will be presenting a case on the CA simulation which we have worked upon for an IC RMPU complete unit. As per IEC 61373, as per in the previous presentation, you have already seen about the physical testing methods and what are the loads and how the testing is being done. So in order to go before the testing, there is a possibility of doing it in a virtual environment and predict whether my component is going to, is there any major issue or is there any problems which you can identify during the virtual phase itself, so that the testing can be cleared in a one go. So basically we want to predict our design at a very early stage, let how it is going to perform in a physical environment. The overall objective is this. So starting with a very basic static simulation. So you can see there is this is a complete RMPU assembly unit, and it is being mounted on the top or rooftop of the bogie through 8 brackets. The brackets you can see over the screen. So there is a bolt which is getting mounted on the, which is basically on the flat surface of this bracket. And we constrain all of those because if the bolts are tightened on the roof body, the assumption is that it is fixed at those locations. And then we give a 1G load, or we can give a 3G load. So initially you can see it's like at a 1G load condition. So RMPU weight is around 700 kilos here. Then we try to understand how our deformation pattern would be and how the stresses would be there in the component. So we can see the deformation plots at which components are undergoing large deformation. Like say currently here we are seeing around say 1.08 mm of deflection. And for the von Mises stresses, we are seeing, I say 100 MPa of the von Mises stresses. And similarly for these different components you can plot. So here you can see for the mounting bracket, and there is a central bracket which is shown on the right bottom. These are all tests are being done as per IEC 61373. So shock analysis is another part of the IEC 61373. So you can see the specifications mentioned on the screen. So there is a peak acceleration of say 30 meter per second square in the vertical, then transverse and longitudinal 50 meter per second square. So similar concept is applied here to simulate this particular component or complete assembly in the form of a shock test. Here also we try to predict what is the deformation and what are the stress plots in the component, so that it should be within our yield of the component. And we can see whether we can do any changes in the design phase itself before giving it for the physical test. These are the stress plots for a shock analysis for the different brackets which are mounted on the assembly, like central brackets and condenser motor bracket, compressor brackets. So we try to estimate what are the stress levels coming up during the testing. This is an animation plot of the shock simulation for a transverse in the vertical direction. You can see how the component is behaving. So it's like a scaled actually. At a scaled way, you can see the deformations and how much it is coming currently. So it's a 3 mm of deformation in transverse and vertical 8 mm. This is a component complete component undergoing a shock type of simulation. Now coming to the next is a random response. In the random response, the functional test, you can see the specifications as per IEC 61373. Similarly, the setup is the same. Only thing we have to introduce a new type of loading, that is a random response, which reflects to a probabilistic type of testing, wherein we accumulate the transient data. So there is a process of converting this complete transient data which we get from the RMP unit and convert it into a form of a random response statistical data, which can be plotted in this form. You can see on the table, it's in the form of acceleration versus frequency. Basically, the expression spectral density is being converted into this table format based on the range of the component, like the frequency range which we have seen in the earlier presentations, that can be calculated based on the mass and the category of the component. And the same is being applied on the complete assembly. And again, we try to predict whatever deformations and how the stress levels are there in the component. The similar activity can also be done for this is for the random response functional test. And similarly, we can also go for the random response fatigue testing also in the simulation environment. Now, coming to the end of the presentations, what all we can do in the CAE in a railways type of engineering domain, or for any railway component or railway assemblies. So we can go for the structural analysis of components and assemblies as per IEC 61373, which I just presented in the previous slides. Then we can go for the prediction of aerodynamic effect of the pantograph, because a pantograph which gets mounted on the locomotive rooftop with a train running at say 160 kmph or 150 kmph, it's important to understand the behavior of the pantograph during the aerodynamic effects, and that can be predicted through a simulation environment. Also, pantograph has a structural integrity should be maintained, that can be tested as per IEC 61373 and EN 12663. Apart from this, we can also work upon crash worthiness for rail coaches, design validation of wagons, bogie validation for transient load cases, that is like depending on the time dependent loading for any bogie component or any bogie chassis, passenger safety studies, then optimization of anchor lift brackets or any other component, like wherein we want to reduce the weight of the component, or we want to understand whether we can use any other material for that to make it more lightweight and more structurally optimized. And also we can work upon some kinematic simulations of the rail mechanisms of brake dynamics, or any other simulation which can be related to a mechanism type of phenomena. And apart from this, there are many more points, or many more basically in simulations and design activities which can be done in the railways engineering domain. So we can support in any further activities if you have any type of requirements related to CAE in the railways engineering. That's all from my side. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for the excellent presentation. It was very precise and relevant presentation with multiple CAD analysis. I hope you all are enjoying the proceedings so far. Now, for the third presentation and the final presentation of the webinar, I would like to welcome Mr. Ashish Singh. Mr. Singh had completed BTech in Automotive Design Engineering from UPS in 2013. He had also completed MTech in Automotive Engineering from BITS Pilani in 2021. He has 8 years of experience in fatigue and static strength testing of different kinds of chassis and engine component. He had conducted more than 50 numbers of ROPS and FOPS tests for agriculture tractors and CVs, and also recommended many design improvement ideas to the OEMs. At present, Mr. Singh is working as an assistant manager in Fatigue Lab. He is responsible for conducting indoor fatigue testing with a team of 10 people. Mr. Singh will be presenting on topic case study for the fatigue testing of railway component and showcase of iCAD facility. I now request Mr. Singh to proceed with his presentation. So
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Ashish from Fatigue Lab ICAT. I'm here today to present some of my case studies related to fatigue testing of railway component. So in ICAT Fatigue Lab, we conduct lots of testing related to bogie component of railway, which basically contributes to structural testing, performance testings, and fatigue testing. So contents of the PPT is overview of bogie components and list of bogie structural component, damper test, damper silent block test, coil spring test, and at last fatigue lab test facilities. So first I will give you some overview related to bogie components. So it's one of the bogie of a car of railway. It could be a metro, it could be a passenger railway. Train. So first of all, you can see a secondary vertical damper, which connect this bogie with the car body, and the secondary assembly connect the bogie with car body. Then primary spring assembly, which is connecting axle with the bogie, and yaw dampers, which is connecting this bogie with the car body. And these are the some bogie blasters which connect these two secondary springs, and this car body will come on this bogie blasters. And there is also many components like anti-roll bar, which used to mitigate any kind of rolling inside this bogie. So blue color part is the anti-roll bars. Now, this is some physical photographs, actual bogie. So vertical dampers, primary spring assembly, secondary spring assembly, and the secondary dampers, and yaw dampers. So this is basically structural components which is used in bogie. And apart from this, frame of this bogie component is also tested. And there is some other tests we conduct for silent blocks, dampers, and other components. So I will go 3 case studies. One is damper test. So damper test is basically we conduct for secondary and primary springs dampers. So these dampers are basically used inside a test sample cooling jackets to provide the cooling to avoid any kind of heating during the testing. And we use this whole setup with our servo hydraulic actuators. We prepare fixtures, and then we apply the loading. So basically there is two kind of tests we perform. One is damping performance test. You can call it as a performance test of a damper, characteristics test you can call it as, and another is fatigue test. So in damping performance tests, we can conduct in 2 ways. One is we find load versus deflection curve at a different amplitude and constant velocity, or you can say different displacement and constant velocity. Another is a load versus deflection curve at a different velocity and constant amplitudes. So as we know, dampers are very, forces are directly proportional to velocity. So if we change the velocity with constant amplitude, so forces will be high, as you can see in this photo, in this curve. This curve is basically different velocity, but the amplitude is 9.5 mm. So we keep the stroke at a middle, like the damper is having overall stroke of 100 mm, so we keep it as a 50, and then from there we give some amplitude. So that amplitude is decided already by the customer, and we provide that much through our servo hydraulic actuator with different frequency, you can say, or you can say the velocity. So one is at you can say at 0.5 hertz frequency, then 1 hertz frequency, then 2 hertz frequency. So the load is continuously increasing with respect to frequency, or you can say higher velocity. Another is we plot the load versus deflection curve of one cycle to understand the behavior of a damper. So generally it make a full you can say a square shape, but not a square shape completely. It's a circular shape. So this is the load versus deflection in case of damper, but if it is a velocity, then it is a straight line. So these are some characteristics tests we perform before conducting the fatigue test inside our lab. So for every dampers, we check these performance to assess the performance or characteristics after fatigue test. So before fatigue test we conduct, and after fatigue test we conduct these performance tests. So for fatigue test, it is actually the loads or displacement which is coming actually on the field are damaging displacement. And generally, if we are taking the thumb rule, so we take around 50 to 75% of total available strokes, like it is 100 mm stroke available strokes of the damper. So we conduct at plus minus 25 or plus minus 35. So these are some general instruction we follow, and the frequency we generally take from 1.6 Hz to 2 Hz, or we can go more also, but depending on the temperature, we should not exceed the temperature of damper above from you can say 55 degree or 60 degree, because if we are going above that, then the oil inside the damper characteristics of the oil get deteriorate, its viscosity get deteriorate, and definitely performance will get deteriorate. So the frequency we should keep in mind, like these parameters like the oil temperature as well as the performance of the damper. So the number of cycles generally for the railway components, very high cycles fatigue test we perform. So it is ranging from 16 lakh cycles to 25 lakh cycles. And also we can go up to 50 lakh cycles or 1 crore cycles depending on the factor of safety of the customers. So these are some fatigue testing we perform inside our lab. This is the actual set of photographs of one of the damper. It's a secondary damper, bigger damper, and the acceptance criteria, which I have already told you, like maximum deterioration we can go up to 15%, or as per the railway manufacturer or railway agencies. So this is related to damper testing. Then another is damper silent blocks. So these dampers are equipped with the mounting silent blocks to mount over the bogie as well as the car body. So this is the component level testing we perform. So silent block basically are used to damp the vibrations after dampers. So silent blocks, you can see we are conducting one radial test over here in this setup using servo hydraulic actuators. Another is conical durability test, fatigue test. So we can perform in the same setup the performance test as well as the fatigue test. So coming to the first performance test, which we call it as a static stiffness measurement, to check the performance or characteristics of the component before fatigue test. So these are the two graphs which we generally perform for before the fatigue test. So one is radial stiffness graph, load versus deflection graph, and another is conical graph. So in radial graph, we perform like a plus minus 1 mm displacement, and we check how much load is coming, and then in between plus minus 1 mm of deflection, we check how much stiffness is there. So I mean kilonewton per mm or Newton per mm, this kind of value we find in radial stiffness. And similarly in conical and torsional stiffness, we find out how much torque per degree is the stiffness, like Newton meter per degree. So how it is. So we perform like plus minus 1 degree or plus minus 2 degree displacement we give through our rotary actuator. This is our rotary actuator, servo hydraulic. And then this is one of our load cell, a torque cell, and it is having rotary actuator having displacement sensor. Rotational displacement sensor, and it gives the value in terms of degree. So we perform like we give amplitude of plus minus 1 degree, and we check how much torque is coming. So torque divided by that displacement, we calculate at 1 degree. So this will give us this characteristics value of performance test of these silent blocks. So these silent block then we conduct for durability test, and similarly this load values is coming in the field. That load we need to provide on the dampers, on the silent blocks. So these load values are provided by the customer or the railways to us, or as per the standard of railway. So the minimum number of cycles we perform 25 lakh cycles, or as per the customers or manufacturers. And frequency we can go in up to 10 hertz or 15 hertz, depending on any kind of heating of the rubber component, because these are generally rubber and metal bonded components. So we can go up to 10 hertz or 15 hertz, but considering there is no heating inside the rubber. So the acceptance criteria is same, like the maximum deterioration of this stiffness value is up to 20%, or as specified by the manufacturer. So this is the testing of damper silent blocks. And another is we recently conducted these railway springs. So these are primary and secondary springs. These are our customized setup, and we conduct this setup for railway and their suppliers. So we need to check three tests. First is pre-test measurement, like after receiving the sample, we check the coil spring outer diameter, inner diameter of coil spring, free height or length of the spring, then perpendicularity of the spring, and number of active coils, and visual inspection for any kind of cracks or abnormality. So these springs basically we receive for performance test as well as the fatigue test. So in performance test, we find out the vertical stiffness of this springs. So we apply some loads and we check how much displacement is coming, and accordingly we find out this vertical stiffness. And then contact length test. So basically when we apply some static load on these springs, means these static loads are predefined, or you can say the overall car loads, which is coming on the per bogie and on per secondary springs or primary springs. So these static load we apply, then there is some deflection, and that deflection we need to check how much contact is coming at the ends of the springs, like here and here. So these are some performance check before starting the test, and then we need to conduct the fatigue test, overall life cycle test. And then after the fatigue test, we need to check these, vertical stiffness, you can say, or contact length test. So in fatigue test, we apply the load in terms of sinusoidal waves, maximum and minimum loads, with some mean load, or you can say some static loads, which is coming on the spring. And these frequency can vary to 2 to 15 hertz or more than that, but considering the same thing, like there is no heating of the springs. And generally we keep the spring temperature up to 50 degree, where there is no any micro level change in the spring materials, or any kind of change in material behavior during the speed of the test. So we can conduct this number of cycle up to like 25 lakh cycles or 1 crore cycles. So in railway, generally I have seen the number of cycles for any kind of fatigue testing up to like 25 lakh cycles minimum. So we can conduct up to 25 lakh cycles and more than that, depending on the customer's requirement. So the acceptance criteria related to this test is after testing of complete cycle, we need to check the contact of these spring coils. So there is no any contact between these coils at a particular static loads or higher loads. So it is generally 1.35 G of the static loads, which is coming on the spring. So this is one of calculation based on some of our experiences or projects we have done. So like loads coming on the per coil springs, like how we derive the load cycles. So like mass of passenger cars, we need passenger per car is MP, and then mass of the bogie is MB. Mass of the suspension is MS, then mass of the overall vehicle car, it is MB, MP plus MB and plus MS. Then number of bogie per car, you can say 2 numbers of bogie we generally railway and metro use, and number of axles per bogie is 2. So there is 8 numbers of springs per car, because there is 4 numbers of primary springs basically per bogie. So static mass on primary spring is MB by 8, because there is 8 numbers of primary springs per bogie. So this is MB by 8. Then maximum vertical acceleration during running. So in railway, there is the rule, or you can say the experiences is 1.5 G to 1.4 G, or it may be some lower side as well as the higher side. So generally it is from 1.25 G to 1.4 G. What vertical acceleration is coming on railway bogie. So static loads on primary spring is MB by 8 into G. This is in terms of Newton. Then maximum load is 0.75 G to ML. ML is basically static loads. And then minimum load is 1.5 G to into ML. So these are the maximum minimum load we need to derive, or this is provided by the customer based on their calculations. It may be very, like it is not the thumb rule like 0.75 G or 1.25 G. It is basically the data they collected from the railway or already derived data. So the number of cycles is, as I said, 25 lakh cycles. So we need to run the test in between these two values, or it can be higher side, like some FOS or something they have considered. So these are some overview. We have conducted the test inside our lab. Apart from this, we also conduct the testing of anti-roll bars of the bogie, as well as some other components like blowsters, knuckle to join the two bogies. So these are some tests, and we are ready to conduct any kind of structural testing inside our fatigue lab using these facility. Like we have actuator, n numbers of actuators, like we have 17 numbers of actuators ranging from 15 kilonewton to 1000 kilonewton, and these are all servo hydraulic actuator, and we can go up to frequency of 15 to 20 hertz, and we have 1000 kN machine, we can go up to 50 to 60 hertz, and respective strokes. Also, we conduct this propeller shaft testing and other shaft use in like anti-roll bar torsional testing using our rotary actuator. So we have 10 kilonewton rotary actuator for testing of the coupler or torsional testings. So thank you everyone. Thank you for joining and listening. So we are open to cater any kind of requirement of the industry related to railways and structural testing. Thank you. I have one question from Mr. Vindesh here from GMT. So, sir has asked, like, have you ever done service life test or fatigue test on rubber to metal bonded items of LHB bogie earlier? Sample given by railway or any other company? Yeah, we have conducted rubber and metal bonded components, but we have generally conducted silent blocks. Maybe your component little bit different, but these like service life cycle test or fatigue test, this is our expertise basically. So we can accommodate any kind of samples, like bigger samples, 1 meter or 2 meter by 5 mm, 500 mm sample. So any kind of fatigue testing we can consider in we can test inside our lab. So yes, this test is possible, but whatever the sample we received, this is either from the railway suppliers recommended by RDSO, or directly from the suppliers or manufacturer of railway component. I hope, sir, your query is resolved.
Thank you, sir, for the excellent presentation on fatigue testing of railway component and showcase of ICAT facility. We can take one more question we have. And the question is, what capacity of vibration shakers are required to boogie mounted components as per IC 61373? And question is from Ms. Sneha Sunal. And this question is to Mr. Rohit.
Hello. Okay. Thank you, Sneha Sonar, for the question. So to select the shaker, so your question is what capacity of vibration shakers are required to bogie mounted components as per the IC 61373. Okay. So as per the IC 61373, maximum acceleration level for the shock testing is 30 G. So that to select the capacity of shaker, it's totally depend on the weight and dimension of the test component. So for example, I'm just taking example of the damper. If the weight of damper is 20 kg, so in that case, force means you can calculate the force generated required to conduct the 30 G of testing. So 30 into 20 means very simple formula, force equals to mass into acceleration. So on the basis of that, you can select the capacity of shaker to be used for the testing of damper. Similarly, if the test component weight is 200 to 300 kg, I am just taking example of the disc brake unit. So in that case, the capacity of shaker will be required on the higher side. So it's totally depend on the size and weight of the component to select the capacity of shaker. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I request delegate to kindly mail us with your queries, and we will get back to you on that with the reply from the speakers. Thank you all the eminent speakers. Now, moving towards the end of the webinar, I would like to invite Mr. Shamir Sikalkar, AGM and HBUFTL ICAT for delivering vote of thanks. Sir.
Yeah, thank you, Amritansh. Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Yeah, sorry, my webcam is not working, so I'm addressing from my audio. Good afternoon, all. It's my privilege to propose a vote of thanks on this closing session of this webinar. While coming to an end, I hope we all are geared up with knowledge of the testing methodologies and test standard requirements to carry forward further research and for alert advancements. The technical presentations have given all our thoughts a whole new dimension to explore, and we will surely venture into it. I, on behalf of ICAT, extend a very hearty vote of thanks to all our speakers for sharing with us their technical expertise and for enriching this webinar with their remarkable works. The last 2 hours have been full of technical knowledge, and I'm sure all of you have learned major takeaways. I am very thankful to all participants for taking out time from their busy schedule. I hope that the takeaway would have been invaluable, and also you can reach us at any time for your requirements. I am also thankful to Ms. Pamela Tiku, Chief Business Officer at ICAT, for her welcome address. Last but not the least, I would like to acknowledge the organizing team, Mr. Rohit, Ashish, Amritansh, Gopal, Krishna Govind, and Bibo at ICAT for their remarkable effort to make this event happen. As ICAT is having a quite huge experience in testing of railway components as per various standards and IEC 61373, for which ICAT has been enable accredited, and our test reports are widely being accepted by all railways and metros manufacturers and their suppliers. And we have successfully completed quite challenging projects in time-bound conditions. Also, we would like to continue the same. We wish you all a very wonderful day. Thank you all. Thank you, Amrita. It's to you.
Thank you, sir, for your kind words. I once again thank the delegate speakers, Mr. Rohit Shah, Mr. Gopal Singh Rathod, and Mr. Ashish Singh for taking out time from their busy schedule and gracing this webinar with the presence and insightful presentation. I thank all the delegated attendees for their attention and active participation. I hope you found this webinar informative and useful. Thank you all for signing in. With this, I will be concluding this webinar. Wishing you all a nice day ahead. Stay safe, stay healthy. Thank you and namaste.